Hi everyone, I had seizures as a kid and Cured Epileptic was supposed to be my band name, but I'm using it for my channel instead. This video aims to tackle a subject I haven't seen other videos cover. Could Beatrice Horseman from the animated Netflix show Bojack Horseman have broken the cycle she was in? And when was that most likely to happen? Of course, it's all easier said than done, and this isn't an essay actually trying to dictate the actions of a cartoon character. Moreover, it's an exploration in empathy and opportunity. Let's talk about Beatrice. Beatrice was born in 1938 and was the daughter of Joseph and Honey Sugarman, and the heiress to her father's Sugarman's Sugar Cube Company. Her childhood featured a unique mix of privilege and horror. On the one hand, Beatrice never wanted a day in her life. Her family was wealthy, and she was sent to private schools and had a summer home. However, she was taught disordered eating, sexist tropes, and her own dad wanted to marry her off to the son of another business owner, Corbin Creeberman, to improve his own ventures. Gross. At a young age, Beatrice's older brother died in World War II. This resulted in her mother spiraling into depressive and manic states. Instead of helping his wife work through her grief, Joseph opts to get his wife lobotomized. This decision would traumatize Beatrice, and we see how she cages up after this. She's no longer allowed to play or ask questions the way she did when her mother was intact, so to speak. Her father vaguely threatens to do the same to Beatrice whenever she misbehaves, or what he considers misbehaving, which is basically when she's reasonably upset when she's being bullied, or when she's sick and her toys are burned in front of her. Naturally, this would have resulted in distrust of the mental health system, distrust of doctors, and maybe even a general distrust of men, especially any man who reminded her of her father. Beatrice then thinks that feelings are something she has to overcome all alone without expressing them. This would be a lesson that eventually Bojack feels the weight of, as her feelings get pawned off on her son. But back to Beatrice. Beatrice does go to college. She has her debutante ball at age 25, which seems a bit late. No doubt she was putting it off. We can see her father is frustrated with her indecision. This might have been a missed opportunity for Beatrice to cut ties with her father and set out on her own. It is interesting how we don't really know what she was doing throughout college and after college. Despite her opposition to the debutante ball, she seems to enjoy it. She can quip with the best of them, and she performs a stunning dance that she actually seems to be lost in. At her ball, she meets a party crasher named Butterscotch Horseman. He says he's a writer and has kind of a condescending attitude that Beatrice finds attractive. That in itself could be a whole video. Why we can find ourselves attracted to people who are belittling and degrading. I'm not talking about in the freaky way. We even see when Beatrice does her dance, everyone else is clapping, while Butterscotch leaves in a kind of huff, and she chases after him. She's attracted to the horseman, however you want to say it, who is not appreciating her or validating her. Anyway, after the dance, Beatrice and Butterscotch ditch the ball and, well, you know. Shortly after, while on a date with a man her father wants her to marry, Corbin Creeberman, Beatrice finds out she's pregnant. When Butterscotch suggests a termination, Beatrice has a trauma flashback of her father burning her baby doll when she was sick. Instead of working through this trauma, Beatrice clams up and says she can't. This is a pivotal moment, in my opinion, because I believe it shows Beatrice's trauma is now making decisions that will change her life. She's not making this choice from a place of empowerment. A baby is not a doll, and the circumstances are very different. However, this horrific event in her childhood prompts her to refuse to even consider a termination. I'm not saying it would have been the right or wrong choice. What I'm saying here is Beatrice doesn't consider the choice due to trauma. That's different from thinking about something deliberately and deciding rationally. However, at this point, I do think Beatrice was still too afraid of expressing herself to examine why she was feeling what she was feeling in that moment. She's still very much in her father's control, and we've seen how he responds to women acting in a way he doesn't approve of. Beatrice has kind of been towing the line. She's rebelling, but not too much. Maybe this cycle is preventing her from discovering who she really is. Also, I want to take the time to point out how wild Butterscotch is in this moment as well. He goes from giving Beatrice a fake phone number to I'll pay for someone to take care of it, to let's get married and move to California. This man has red flags written all over him. I understand these are different times, but these are still big moves and gestures, which is kind of a precedent for the kind of behavior Bojack exhibits in his own life. Rash choices, fits of romance, and ultimately being unprepared for the harshness of reality. Butterscotch is just all over the place, but that's a whole different topic. The two of them move into an apartment-looking dwelling and have Bojack. Butterscotch works in a cannery and writes his novel, which never seems to materialize as the years pass. We see Beatrice's regret pretty quickly as she realizes Butterscotch is not really a genius, but just kind of a smooth talker who probably should have been a footnote in her life. Now, most people will probably point to when she has Bojack and say that that should have been Beatrice's turning point. That's a common response. She has to shape up and think about her baby. She's a mom now. But I think she needs a little more grace than that. Beatrice didn't plan this baby, and she was quite young and unsure of herself when she had him. She was still in many ways under the control of her father. She then moves in with a man she barely knows. Her lifestyle downgrades considerably, and that in itself is another form of trauma. It's easy to say that someone has to change for the better when they have a baby, and some people do. But postpartum depression is very real, and Beatrice already struggled with trauma flashbacks before she had Bojack. She doesn't seem to want to be a mother. She's not ready, and her mental health issues do not improve after having Bojack. We see Bojack crying, and Beatrice is unwilling to comfort him. She demands that he be worth everything he's putting her through. She's not enjoying being a mother. She's not having any moments of clarity. She ignores her baby. Instead of comforting him, and instead of both of them finding solace together, she turns to pills and alcohol and lets him sob. She's just miserable. She feels trapped in the same life she rebelled against when she was young. Finally, Butterscotch agrees to get a job at her father's company, and their life upgrades completely. We see a more active Beatrice decorating the home, moving furniture. They even hire Henrietta to help around the house, even though Bojack doesn't seem to remember her. Maybe she was more of a cleaning lady or secretary? In my opinion, the earliest, best, most reasonable time Beatrice could have reversed the path she was on was in this moment, when her husband got a better job. When she's decorating the home, she's the most motivated we have seen her. It's the only scene as an adult where she seems to be exercising control. And then that motivation dies down and she's back on the couch again. This moment where Beatrice seemingly gets a semblance of her old life, that's the first time we see a spark of wanting to change. This maybe could have been a good time for her to explore other avenues, like continuing education, dance classes, or getting a part-time job. Bojack was older at this point, but still young enough that his mother improving her mental health would have benefited him greatly. Unfortunately, Beatrice probably also does not trust mental health services and would have stayed away from them. We do learn that Beatrice sometimes throws parties where she does a dance, much like the dance she did at her debutante ball. She also enjoys watching plays. However, we don't get too much knowledge on her dance background. We know Butterscotch leaves his study to watch her dance, but does he ever offer a compliment or kind word? Or does he act just as dismissive as he did the night they met? When Bojack grows up, his mother comes by to drop off a painting, and he makes a mention of divorce. We see Beatrice doesn't believe in divorce out of some idea of loyalty. The way her father didn't technically divorce her mother, just had her lobotomized. This is another important point. And we see Bojack acting a bit like a parent here. He's basically telling her that if she did get divorced, that choice would be valid. Bojack does seem to want his mother to be happy. That has been his responsibility unfairly his whole life. But Beatrice is surrendering control to this idea that she has to stay married because it's what her father did. Her dad is still controlling her life. She's still trying to make that pain worth it. Here's the part where I might lose people. I don't think Beatrice's life would have been better if she had married Corbin Creamerman, not unless she was willing to put in the work to overcome her trauma in that alternate timeline. I can just as easily see her on the couch complaining to Corbin that she should have married that handsome, rugged writer and lived a bohemian life. Come on, you can imagine it too. Marrying Corbin would have kept her tightly in her father's orbit, and she never would have had the opportunity to rebel and see what life would be like without his money. While Corbin may have been a better match, marrying someone her father approved of and who was close to him and his business would have meant that he would have still exerted control over her life. Her trauma was not going to improve solely based on who she married. It would have just taken on a new and different form, unless she addressed it. I saw further evidence of this when Beatrice was convincing Henrietta to give up her baby to go to nursing school. Henrietta is already working toward clear goals. She has a job and she's studying to be a nurse. But Beatrice never seemed to have clear goals, possibly due to the trauma in her childhood preventing her from immersing herself, enjoying herself, or believing in herself. That's another reason why I believe it almost didn't matter if she married Butterscotch or Corbin. Even if she had a child a few years down the line with Corbin, who's to say she wouldn't have put the same emotional baggage on that child? What was holding Beatrice back? Trauma is a huge part of it. Another part was living in constant reaction to her father. We see when she's getting ready for her debutante ball that she's very opinionated when it comes to modern events. She mentions the civil rights movement and world hunger. However, she never seems to come back to those topics again. So was she really that concerned about them, or was that just something she was saying to annoy her father before the big party he was throwing for her? She seems to want to rebel against her dad, but to a point, because she doesn't want what happened to her mom to happen to her. Beatrice is living in reaction to her father, not wanting to be like him, but still wanting all of the privileges he could provide with his business. She was afraid of expressing herself, but her feelings didn't go away. She just parentified her own son, the only person in her life who couldn't lobotomize her because he didn't have the authority of a father or husband. Overall, Beatrice is a lesson that it was never too late for her, not as a woman in her mid-20s, or as a new mom, or as a middle-aged woman with an adult son, or as a widow. It was never too late for her to start expressing herself. If Beatrice had found a way to work through her trauma in a healthy way, discovered her own goals and her own dreams, the ripple effect it would have had on her life and her son's life could have been profound. Instead, she passed that pain down, just like her mother unintentionally passed her pain down to her. Do you agree with my analysis? Thank you for watching. I hope to post more and similar videos based on whatever inspires me. Please like, subscribe, and maybe check out some of my links to see my novels, stories, and coffee jar.